In order to get the death penalty, they have to prove a terrorist intention. Now, in order to do that, they may get the information from him without having Mirandized him. And that information may get kept out of a trial. So they may have blown the death penalty by not giving him his Miranda warning.
I want to be able to talk to him without a lawyer present to gather intelligence about future attacks that may come our way, and none of the information can be used against him in his trial. I'm not worried. A first-year law student can convict this guy.
This is not terribly relevant. They can sit down with these people. They can interview them. They look for behavioral cues. They look for a way to establish a relationship so that the individual starts to talk. That's it. They do it because it's effective. And you can even interview people occasionally with a lawyer in the room. And the lawyer, if the individual starts to be deceptive in the interview, will start to tell the person to tell the truth. And so Miranda, and it's much ado about nothing in my view.
All right, let's bring in the table on this. And Mark, I'm curious.
Gee, I'm shocked that a government agent thinks Miranda is much ado about nothing. That's shocking. Oh,
Well, who's
Justice
right?
Scalia masquerading as an
I've heard
FBI
from
agent.
some that given the set of circumstances in a post-terror event here, the law is kind of clear on this, and Miranda's not required. Clear up where the law is or isn't.
The law's not clear at all. It's all going to be dependent on the facts of the particular case. The defense is going to make a motion to suppress whatever statements this guy made on the ground that he wasn't given his Miranda rights. The government is going to reply there were exigent circumstances, so the public safety exception applies. How's the judge going to figure out whether that's going to be true? The government is going to have to articulate the reasons why they thought there was a pending emergency. If there were more bombs out there, they're going to have to persuade the judge that they had a reasonable belief that they were. So they're going to have to describe the circumstances surrounding their belief that it was an emergency. And then they're going to have to explain the questions that they asked this guy, whether they related to the purported emergency or whether they were designed to get him to incriminate himself in the pending case. And the judge is going to make a decision based on the particular facts and circumstances at hand. There's no bright line rule as to whether it applies or not.
Lately I've been disagreeing with Senator Graham on a lot of things, but in this particular case, isn't he right to a degree in that there is such overwhelming evidence against this guy that even if they find out information about potential attacks, or if there was a cell that they were working with, or anything that has of immediacy concern, not just for the prosecution, but for a safety concern, they don't even need that at trial, given all the other evidence
they don't need it at trial, so to that extent, the agent is right. But here's the problem for them. The attack occurred, what, last Tuesday?
Yeah, Monday.
Okay, and they interview him Sunday night. Little harder to make the case of an emergency. A week later, they're going to say, oh, there could have been bombs out there that we didn't know about, and most likely a federal judge in Boston is going to accept that rationale.
But doesn't that public safety exception just keep the information that they get without reading him Miranda out of court?
Yes.
I mean, it's still actionable by the federal government or by agents.
Oh, absolutely. They can use any information that he gives up. And clearly his confession, what we're hearing about the confession that he gave at the bedside, they don't need that. They have the video. It's a dead to rights case.
Let me ask the next tricky question. You got different people saying he's an American citizen, but because of what he did,
which he is,
he should lose that citizenry right here and be treated as an enemy combatant. Does it matter, Dominic, that this guy came from the States, from Massachusetts, or that he came from Mali?
It matters that he's a U.S. citizen, which affords him certain rights. If he was treated as an enemy combatant, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Counselor, this is the first time this will be done in American.
John Walker, whatever his name was.
Okay, all right, okay.
It doesn't matter that he's an American citizen. He can be both. He could de facto renounce his Americanism and join the forces of terror and then become an enemy combatant. But the fact is, he's not even charged with a terrorist crime here. He's just charged with using a weapon of mass destruction.
No, but I think what you just said might surprise some folks. You can be an American citizen, and if you perform treason, terroristic acts against your country, you lose your rights as a U.S. citizen?
No, listen, if he's an enemy, you could commit treason, and they could make a showing that he effectively betrayed his country and gave comfort and joined the enemy, and theoretically he could be an enemy combatant. This is not an enemy combatant situation. This is a guy who is motivated by sympathy with the jihadist ideology, but they're not even saying it's a terror crime. Now, I don't believe that jihadists should have the rights of due process in our courts, but that is not this case.
They not saying it's a terror. This was a terrorist act. no way to get around it.
He's not charged with terrorism. He's just charged with
I
using
know, but
a
that's
WMD.
the
But they can
challenge.
come back later with another indictment, correct?
Yeah, they'll supersede it, but
Right,
I don't
so
know
they
that they're
can
going
do
to
it at a
supersede
later
it.
time.
They're going to have to show that in order to
Is this
charge
the federal? I just want to know who they is. The federal
the
government.
feds, yeah.
But are you clear what's terrorism and what isn't? I've heard some people say, why couldn't what's been considered in Newtown be considered terroristic? Does it have to
point
be
is
your
that-
motivation?
No, that's
that you
not
learn
enough.
after the fact? Where is the line between
has to-
terroristic and just mass murder?
The statute, look, it's terrorism in common colloquial parlance. It's definitely a terrorist act. Whether it's prosecutable as giving material support to a terrorist organization is a different story.
Is that the threshold?
Well,
Giving
there's a
support?
material support to terrorism statute, and that's how they get prosecuted under in federal court. He has no connection that we're aware of, formal connection with any organization. He's just a sympathizer.
Now let me get to this next one, because while we may be debating semantics at the end, this guy's never going to see the light of day, whether he gets a death penalty or life in prison here. The consequences of at least their alleged motivations in this, and who maybe they prayed to, is now raising at least some curious opinions out there. We've got the issue of surveillance. In just the past week, you got 3 stories pertaining to radical Islam as well as terror plots. Yesterday, as many of you may have seen, 2 men arrested by Canadian authorities because they were allegedly plotting to derail a passenger train. Today, an 18-year-old who allegedly visited a sham FBI website to express interest in joining al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria appeared in a federal court in Chicago. And of course, last Monday, as we know, marked the Boston bombings allegedly carried out by the 2 brothers here who are both followers of Islam. A series of events that has prompted a curious discussion when it comes to racial profiling.
99% of the Muslims are outstanding Americans. The fact is, that's where the threat is coming from. When the FBI was after the Westies, they went to the Irish community. When they were after the Mafia, they went to the Italian community. If you know what threat is coming from a certain community, that's where you have to look.
My friend, Representative King, is wrong again. The FBI did not go after all Italians or all Irish people. No one ever said, let's surveil a whole ethnic community. They went after people who were criminals and who were exhibiting criminal behavior. Now, the fact that those people happen to be of a particular ethnic origin wasn't really the causal effect. What the issue was, what they were doing. And so, again, it's just ridiculous. I mean, to say that because of the Westies that every Irish person was under suspect. Everyone in America knows that's ridiculous. But I mean, still, he wants to cast a wide net with regard to Muslims.